Okay, we are back from our lunch break to continue our September 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting. Ms. Woods, you had something you'd like to share?
Yes, for the record, I just want to make clear that the previous agenda public hearing on PH-4, Amendment to the Martin County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 151, Solid Waste, that Commissioner Jenkins has filed his Form 8B for voting conflict with the clerk as required by Florida law.
Thank you very much. We will now take public hearing number 1, public hearing on a proposed TRICO settlement for Peter Smith versus Martin County and the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Heather Dayan, Director of HR Risk. Today, I'm here before you to conduct a public hearing on a proposed TRICO settlement, Peter Smith versus Martin County and the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection. In accordance with the procedure for TRICO settlements established by the Board of County Commissioners, any member of the public or any member of the board may comment on the proposed settlement. The case arose when Mr. Smith was riding his bicycle on Jensen Beach Boulevard's shared path when he hit a bollard and fell off his bike. Mr. Smith sustained injuries and filed a personal injury lawsuit against Martin County and the state of Florida. A global negotiated settlement was reached, and TRICO is paying $15,000 on behalf of Martin County, and the state of Florida is paying $15,000. It is the recommendation of TRICO and our outside counsel, Gary Dundas, that this settlement is in the best interest of the county. The recommendation is 1, move that the board conduct a public hearing and receive public comment on the proposed settlement by any member of the public and any member of the Board of County Commissioners. And 2, move that the board direct staff to notify TRICO that the settlement procedures have been completed and the settlement should be finalized. This concludes my presentation.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Dane? Anyone from the public looking to address us on this topic? Seeing none, comes back to the board.
I'll move staff's
Nope,
recommendation.
you just hear it, right?
Oh,
We only,
Just comment.
oh, okay.
Just comments. We're accepting any public comment, and there is none.
Perfect.
We appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
others like I'm out of here as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Public hearing number 2, approve the State Housing Initiative Partnership SHIP program reports and transmittal to the state. It'll
Morning.
be presented this afternoon by Ms. Michelle Miller. Happy birthday, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So we are here today regarding approval, requesting your approval for the State Housing Initiative Partnership, our program reports and transmittal to the state, which are due every September. This year, today I'm requesting approval for 2018 and 19, 19 and 20, and 20 and 21 annual reports. So I'm asking for your approval to move that we can submit these to Florida Housing for approval.
Now you'd like a motion.
I believe so. I wasn't sure if she was done.
I'll move staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone from the public looking to address us on this agenda item? Seeing none. We have a motion by Commissioner Hetherington for staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, now, public hearing number 3.
Now, this is a request.
Wait, I have to announce the item. Public hearing number 3, approve the State Housing Initiative Partnership Affordable Housing Incentive Strategies report by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, AHAC. It'll be presented by Ms. Michelle Miller. Ms. Miller, you are recognized.
Thank you. This is a request for you to approve the State Housing Initiative Partnership, our incentive strategies report. This is recommended by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee each year, and if approved, then it also gets forwarded to Florida Housing annually. So I recommend your approval.
You do recommend.
Ask for.
You're right. We do it.
I move to approve them.
You're allowed.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Second.
Well, you can. Would you like to?
I did. I would like to, yes. Thank you so much.
This side? Okay, anyone from the public looking to, please come forward. This is public hearing number 2.
This is 3.
Number 3 is what I meant to say. Yes, and I have that for you, my system. Please come forward. I have a 5 for you.
I want to speak with that.
Okay, I don't have a 3, so you'll have to fill out a form.
I did. Well, okay, well, I'll find another one. So, good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you. I do want to just address this. I'm on that committee, and I did object to one section, and I just want you to hear my reasons why. And that was on the flexible densities. I do think that, and I know that some of this is in the comprehensive plan, but I think that some of it was altered in years past. Anyway, I don't believe that we should, in the high-density areas where there's supposed to be 10 units, approve 15 units. In the medium-density area where there's supposed to be 8 units, approve 10 units. And then there's a provision that says in the community development areas, and this is for affordable housing, if a parcel of land is an acre or less, if a builder builds 800 square feet units, that only counts as half the density. So if it's a high-density area, instead of having the 10, you'd have 15, but if they build 800 or less, you got 30. Instead of 8, you have 10, but if they build 800 or less, you have 20. And I just think that that's wrong. And I think it's a shell game in the comprehensive plan. Whoever added that or however that got in there, I think it was wrong, and it's a wrong policy. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, state your name for the record, please.
Oh, sorry. I'm Linda Fithian, and I am a resident of Palm City. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else looking to address us on this topic? Seeing none, back to the board. Did we already do this? Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
We have
We have a motion by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All those in favor?
aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is public hearing number 5, a legislative public hearing to consider adoption of a comprehensive plan amendment, CPA 23-05, 6900 Southeast Ridgeway Terrace. It'll be presented by Mr. Clyde Doolin. Mr. Doolin, good afternoon. You are recognized.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I am presenting on behalf of Carolyn Grunwald, who cannot be here today. This is a small-scale future land use map amendment, 0.65 acre parcel. It was formerly the Hobe Sound Fire Station 33. It fronts US Highway 1 and the corner of Ridgeway and US 1. The local planning agency considered this and voted 4-0 to recommend approval. I'm going to slide down to the maps just to give you an idea of where we are and what it looks like. So this is a map, an aerial photo showing the location. This is Publix to the south. This is the Ridgeway Mobile Home Park to the east. This is Ridgeway Terrace where it intersects with US 1. This is formerly the Massey Yardley auto dealer. It is now the home of Broward Motorsports. And this is Osprey farther to the south, just to orient you. This is, as I said, formerly a Martin County Fire Station. The property was disposed of and sold. And this is the future land use designation on the property. It has a mobile home future land use designation, which was nothing inconsistent about having the fire station on that. However, it does leave the property available only for mobile home development and residential uses. This is the proposed future land use designation, general commercial. As you can see, there's general commercial to the south and to the north, and a parcel across the street. Most of the parcels here that you see that are in red, that are medium density residential and low density residential on the west side of Federal Highway, are part of the MacArthur Golf Club, and they are controlled under a Preserve Area Management Plan. Just this general commercial parcel and one other right here are not part of the MacArthur Golf Club. So based on the criteria for staff to make recommendations, it met 3 of the criteria. And as you can see, it is compatible with the existing land use designations to the north and to the south. And staff recommends approval of this proposed future land use map amendment. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff from the commission? We have 2 requests to speak forms. The first one is Mr. Tom Quint. Thank you, sir, for your patience. I appreciate you coming back.
Yeah, I'm Tom Quint, 6940 Southeast Ridgeway. I'm against the rezoning of it. From what I know, there's been no traffic study done on Ridgeway itself, which is just a small little entrance road to our development. I live 3 doors down from the fire station. I missed the fire station. Those were our heroes. They were there. We needed them. They were there. They watched over the whole neighborhood. But now that they left, it's zoned whatever it's zoned that the people bought it for. And it should stay that way because that's what we bought into in our area when we bought the houses there. So right now, when I go to back out of my driveway, the cars that are coming off of US 1, I can't even, as soon as I go to back out, there's a car coming off of US 1. So I pull back in. And it's how much traffic is on this road. And then another car's coming, another car. So then I go to back out because it's clear, and then there's a car coming out of Ridgeway. It's the only way in and out to US 1. There's no way you can put commercial on that piece of land. It won't work at all. Okay? Since the fire department's moved out, there's been crime just rising because they kind of looked over the place, and they were there. You saw the fire trucks, the police department was there. So I don't know if anybody's ever reached out to Sheriff Snyder to make sure if he knows why crime's going up, but I can tell you it's because of all this commercial coming in. We just had a Publix built. We had a Dollar General built. It's just endless how much traffic is there. We got, like he said, the motorcycle place. They go up and down. Every time somebody comes and test drives a motorcycle or a side-by-side or a Jeep or whatever they're selling there, they come down my street up and down to test drive it. It's right there. So there's no way. Now, when you pull out of Ridgeway also, they're saying that, staff is saying that the cars are going to be coming in off of US 1, go through, whether it's a drive-through from McDonald's or whatever it's going to be. They go through and they drive back out. Well, they can't go left when they leave. You can only go right. You can't go across US 1. So all the cars that want to go left are going to come down my street again to go out the back way to come around Osprey. Now, you approve Publix. I've complained and complained and complained about how much stuff it's not being addressed with the Publix. It's right, within a throwing distance from my house. They have generators, trash compactors, lighting all over the place. My backyard's lit up like the 4th of July. It's crazy. So I'm asking you not to, till you check with Sheriff Snyder to check to see if there's crime is going up. I got burglarized. I got my police report where I just got burglarized. And he said, thank you very much for reporting it because he's trying to connect all the red dots.
Sir, your time is up.
It's happening. Okay, so.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
The sheriff's going to be here later this afternoon. I'll hang on to your request to speak form, and I'll mention it to him. Our next request to speak form is Miss Linda Fithian.
Why is the sheriff coming here?
No, he's coming for, what was
Something else.
Legislative priorities.
Yeah, there you go.
He is?
Bring the big guns in.
Thank you.
Time's
Good
up.
afternoon. My name is Linda Fithian. Again, I live in Palm City. And when I saw this come up on the agenda, to me, it's like, okay, another entity bought a piece of property with zoning of mobile housing. And now because they bought that piece of property, they want to change the zoning. If I was a resident that lived in the mobile park that I had bought knowing that that whole area was zoned for mobile housing, I would be very upset in regards to this. So even though there are general commercial on either side of that, I would not want that parcel that was originally zoned for mobile homes to be changed. I don't, there's a lot of people coming in here into Martin County. They buy a piece of property that's zoned one way, and then they want it all zoned for them the way they want it so that they can build whatever they want. And there's no consideration for the people who live there and who have lived there for a long time and bought their property the way it was zoned as for mobile homes. So that's basically what I wanted to say. I disagree with it, and I don't think you should approve it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public looking to address us on this topic? Seeing none. Back to the board. Mr. Doolan, can I ask you a question? This was the fire station property.
This was.
It was zoned mobile homes,
Yes.
not institutional?
No.
So you could have a fire station on mobile home zoning, based on what you said?
Yes.
Who sold it? We did?
Yes.
Just Elise Elder, Deputy County Attorney. For the record, this is a future land use map amendment, not a rezoning. So we're here to consider a legislative public hearing on the future land use map amendment. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
We do. Can you explain the difference for the members of the public?
Sure. So a legislative public hearing is a policy decision made by the board, whereas a rezoning is a quasi-judicial proceeding. A rezoning is based on the competent, substantial evidence presented to the board during the public hearing. For a legislative public hearing, it's policy. It's the policy that the board wants to make. They're not governed by any evidence presented at this hearing. It's what policy they want to do, and if they want to change the future land use map designation for this piece of property. It's not about zoning, and it's not about a particular use.
No, you had your chance. That's how it works. I appreciate it.
Mike, you see the applicant?
Are you the applicant? I don't see, and it's not in any of my information. Sir, please come and make your presentation on behalf of the applicant. I was wondering who the applicant was.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Mike McCarty, McCarty & Associates, Land Planning and Design, address 309 Southeast Osceola Street, Stuart, Florida, 34994. Representing the owner of this property, yes, he did purchase this at auction from the county. You, the Board of County Commissioners, deemed that this parcel was no longer a needed asset of the county. This is a old fire station. I believe it was number 33. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it served its purpose for a number of decades and was deemed that it had served its purpose and no longer was needed. Subsequently, a new fire station was brought online in the last year or so in the area to take over this service area that this station previously provided. When the county deems a piece of property surplus and they decide that it's no longer needed as a public asset to serve a purpose for the county, the private sector has the opportunity to purchase it at auction, and that's exactly what my client did. The property is improved. It does have the old fire station, CBS construction of basically a building that has a roll-up door on the front and the back. It is appropriate to be reused in some commercial capacity. You'll see from the land use map that's before you that commercial land use designation is appropriate. It is compatible with the surrounding uses. It's a small parcel. We're not anticipating on doing anything here of significant impact that will negatively affect the area. I did hear some comments, though, regarding that people are against this, and I find that quite peculiar. I mean, previously this was a fire station. I spoke to a gentleman that called and he was opposed to it and said he'd rather see it turn into mobile homes. And I said, well, did you have a problem or any issue with the fire station that, existed there for some decades with fire trucks and sirens all times of the night? And he didn't have a problem with it because it had a purpose for the community. It was a benefit to the community. He didn't mind that. However, this is going to be a very passive use in this building, most likely be a commercial tenant, low impact. It's appropriate at the corner of Ridgeway and US Highway 1 and along this corridor. If you have any concerns, I'm happy to try to answer them, but this is pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins?
So if we left this mobile home future land use, any use on this property would be a non-conforming use, correct? And its previous use was a fire station. So how would that work?
So conceivably, you could rehab the building for residential use, or you could demo the building and you could put in mobile homes if you left the land use as it is. But the structure is not a mobile home and doesn't really qualify as a fit with the mobile home future land use designation.
Obviously, mobile home future land use is not appropriate for this piece of property on US 1. So I don't see that we have a choice. And obviously, your recommendation that it's general commercial is what it shows us. So I mean, there may be some folks that don't want it, but how can it not be? Is my understanding, or my point.
Commissioner Hurd?
The quandary is that the mobile home land use is the only one that's compatible with the entire mobile home community that's behind it.
Mobile home use on bordering US 1?
I agree. That's an oddity, but the fact remains that mobile home is consistent with the mobile home development. It's a big development.
Sandwiched in between two general commercial pieces of property.
Well, I would say that the commercial general portions are incompatible with the mobile home use rather than the other way around. I don't think that the mobile home uses have to fit in with the general commercial uses.
We had our public comment portion of the agenda item already. It's for such a small piece of property, it's a quandary. I can't imagine someone living in a mobile home directly on US 1. That's why I'm surprised that it was never zoned institutional for our use as a fire station. I don't remember the specifics of the auction and the surplusing of the property, but Mr. McCarty is not wrong. He bought it at auction from us, from the county. And so I don't know what would have been thought of back then. I get that there's mobile homes behind it, but the concept of, extending those mobile home lots to the corner of US 1 and Ridgeway doesn't make sense to me either. And we sold the property, so we've given up our ability to say it should be this or should be that. If there were some other options, but it's either change it to what the owner of the property now thinks it should be or is looking to have it be, versus running mobile homes right up onto US 1. Those are two weird options. Commissioner Smith.
Clyde, I don't know if you remember, maybe in your research when you looked into this, I thought when we did Publix, or we dealt with Publix, were those lots out front part of the original, I don't know if it was PUD of Heritage Ridge, but they were not mobile home in the beginning.
The Publix location where my cursor is right now on the map was general commercial previously. There was a hotel there.
Right.
and restaurant that was there previous to the hurricanes in 2004, and the hotel was damaged and destroyed by the hurricane.
But even prior to that, when Heritage Ridge was conceived, were those out parcels not carved out of Heritage Ridge?
Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director. There are a number of parcels outside of Heritage Ridge, which were always anticipated as part of it. I don't think this is one of them.
I'm just curious.
For example, the Dollar General store, that's a commercial component of the Heritage Ridge plan.
It was.
Yes, which is
But this,
approximately 1,000 feet north.
but Heritage Ridge was built in the 60s, 70s?
60s and 70s, I believe.
And that restaurant hotel that got torn down after the hurricanes, it was, I think, originally Howard Johnson's or something. What was it?
Days in.
I thought it was
Days Inn? Even before Days Inn? It
I
wasn't
don't
Howard?
remember. I'm too young for that.
Harold used to walk there barefoot.
In the snow. I seem to remember somewhere along the line that land use out on US 1 was always anticipated to be something other than mobile home.
That's my understanding as well, Commissioner.
Thanks.
It's rare that we're at a loss.
Not so rare.
What?
Nothing.
Well, comes back to the board. So let's just recap.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
When this property was sold, was there any condition of it was sold knowing that it was zoned mobile home? That there was some,
I believe there was no condition on the sale. I'm sure the
Right.
property owner could have looked and found out it was, had a mobile home future land use designation, but we wouldn't have conditioned any kind of change with the sale, any change of that future land use designation with the sale of the property.
even though we're selling them a non-conforming use?
There was no condition in the sale. I'm 99% sure that that would not have happened,
That's correct.
because we can't do that.
Yeah, Mike McCarty. I'm pretty sure, this was auctioned through Elliott Paul. I believe he's the auctioneer that handles the surplus lands, if I'm correct. And it's buyer beware. You're buying as is, and with the zoning and the existing conditions and nonconformities and all. I will state that I was consulted during the leading up to that auction. The prospect purchaser at that time questioned what I thought would be the highest and best use, and I said, well, it certainly would make logical sense from a planning perspective that this be a commercial general corner, given the uses surrounding it, the nature of the use that was existing. There was a fire station of high-intensity traffic trip generation, and that it had a building that could conform to the commercial zoning designation of general commercial. With that said, he did acquire the property at auction for, I believe, $1.1 million, with the intention and understanding of changing it to zone it to commercial and the land use to commercial as well, for reuse. And I believe it's the best interest of the county to approve the land use and the zoning designation. It puts this property back on the tax roll at its highest and best use.
Is that the price? Was it $1.1 million?
I don't have that knowledge, I'm sorry.
It was
Commissioner.
900 and something. But, yeah.
What are our options?
Well, the board needs,
Approve or deny.
the board needs to make a motion of some type, whether to approve it or not approve it, or an alternative motion.
Well, as your chair, I'm interested in a motion. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, this is, we're not going to please, anybody with our decision today, but this was auctioned off, and the buyer should have known that the underlying land use was mobile home. It's not our obligation we can't promise that we will change it to general commercial to conform with the neighboring uses. But he had to know that the existing land use was mobile home, and all of those units behind it were mobile home. And that was the expectation, was that mobile home usage was going to be the only allowed use on that parcel. So I moved to deny.
We have a motion.
Thank
We have a motion. It's about to fail for the lack of a second, which would, now it does fail for the lack of a second, which means I will entertain a different motion. So only a couple of options here. One would be to second the motion that said deny, which didn't happen. The other would be to make a motion to approve with a second. Commissioner Smith.
We'll make a motion, and I think for all those listening and watching, this is land use. There's no
Yeah.
site planning, there's no zoning involved.
Correct.
And it'll be a whole separate hearing, multiple hearings, to consider whatever goes there in the future. Whether it's a reuse, whether it's a tear down, they'll still have to go through a myriad of discussion. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes,
Just
please.
a couple of things that just came to mind, in fact. One is with the existing mobile home land use, as the Commissioner Jenkins pointed out, we had a legal nonconformity with respect to the fire station. That's no longer on the property. So what we're in effect left with is a mobile home land use with mobile home zoning with a commercial building that for all intents and purposes can't be utilized for a commercial business. So that's that part. The other part is, should the property be successful in the general commercial and the existing building be retrofitted, that may or may not trigger a development review final site plan. So and if it does, it may be a minor development. So it may not necessarily come back to this board. That was the purpose.
But for zoning, you would have to. Will not have to come back for a companion zoning?
Yes, sir.
The next public hearing, I believe. Yes.
So, we don't get to talk about what could happen there, what can be used there in this portion of the hearing, because does it conform to the surrounding land uses and is it compatible?
Correct.
So I guess the question for you all, if you rendered your opinion, it's compatible.
Yes, sir.
The ask is compatible, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But this is the hearing where you have more discretion. The next hearing would be based on competent substantial evidence presented at the hearing. So-
And to be clear, that next hearing is next,
Correct.
not in the future, shortly, if we get to that point. The agenda item would be moot if we don't get past this, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Smith, did you do something there?
I was going to, then it just kind of went sideways a little bit, but I will move staff's recommendation.
And to keep us out of a massive lawsuit that I foresee in the future,
Why?
I will second it.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith for staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
I missed you.
Said aye.
On what?
Favor.
Opposed. The motion carries 3-2 with Commissioners Campy and Hurd dissenting. Thank you very much. Our next agenda item, public hearing quasi-judicial number 1, public hearing to consider adoption of an amendment to the Martin County zoning atlas to change the zoning classification for CPA 23-05, 6900 Southeast Ridgeway Terrace. It'll be presented by Mr. Dooland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Before we begin, Commissioner.
Oh, yes,
this is
I
a
apologize.
Quasi-judicial proceeding.
It's a quasi-judicial, so I will ask my colleagues if they've had any ex parte communications. Commissioner Hurd.
I have none, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Jenkins?
None of them been found.
I have none, they've been filed. Commissioner Heatherington?
None, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith?
None, and if I have any, they're filed.
Thank you. Are there any interveners?
No interveners.
Anyone that'll be offering any testimony, would you please stand to be sworn in?
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Are there any return receipts that are necessary? And if so, where are they?
There are.
Good afternoon, Mike McCarty, McCarty and Associates Land Planning and Design. Those return receipts were previously submitted at the previous hearing at the P&Z.
Local planning agency.
LPC? LPA, thank you. Mr. Dooland, either yours or Ms. Grunwald's copy of the agenda item and a copy of your work history?
They have been turned into the clerk.
Thank you very much. I think we're ready to begin.
We are, thank you.
Mr. Dooland, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing to consider the appropriate zoning district for the subject property that you just considered, a 0.65 acre parcel at the corner of Ridgeway and US Highway 1. The existing zoning is RT for residential trailer. The applicant has proposed the GC, General Commercial Zoning District. I'm going to show you the maps. Well, let me show you first of all the General Commercial Future Land Use Designation, which you just voted upon in the last public hearing, can be implemented by one of two standard zoning districts. One is community commercial, the other is general commercial. General commercial being the more intense of the two. In your package, in the agenda item, there is a permitted use schedule, and you can choose from between these two zoning districts and decide on which is the most appropriate. The applicant has requested the GC, which is highlighted. The permitted use schedule shows a substantially similar type of uses throughout, and the uses are listed on the left, and the P in the matrix means that it's permitted in that zoning district. So as you can see, places of worship are permitted, post offices, protective and emergency services. You could have another fire station there. Public libraries, the commercial uses are also listed. Commercial amusements indoor, for instance, are not permitted in CC. They are permitted in GC. So you have you can see there the list of permitted uses that are available. Flea markets are permitted GC, not in CC. I'll get down to the map and show you the existing zoning in a second, but as you can see, the development standards for the two zoning districts are very similar. Minimum lot size is the same. Minimum lot width is the same. Maximum building coverage for the GC is 60% and 50% for the CC. Max height is different. Minimum open space is different. Setbacks are the same for both the CC and GC. We've evaluated it based upon the standards and found that it complies. Where is the map? There we are. I just went right by it. Why did she do that? Okay. This is the zoning atlas, and the colors depicted on the zoning atlas. The red depicts the GC, general commercial, that is located to the north and the south of the property. The brown depicts the RT, or residential trailer. As you can see, there's GC on the west side and R3A on the west side. The rest of the land around that is in the MacArthur Golf Club. So this is the existing zoning atlas, and this is the proposed color for the proposed GC zoning district on the subject site outlined in teal. With that, I'll end the staff presentation and be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Doolan, thank you. Questions for staff from the commission? Seeing none, the applicant's opportunity to make a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mike McCarty, McCarty and Associates Land Planning and Design, representing the owner. been sworn in. As previously stated, we provided our return receipt affidavit to staff. We also advertised the appropriate signage on the site as per the land development regulation and notice requirements. It's real straightforward. I mean, to the north, you've got general commercial zoning, a very large commercial tract, high intensity, lots of parking, a lot of square footage, tens of thousands of square feet of general commercial use. Same to the south. This is a small postage stamp on a corner. We're talking a very, very small piece. It is on the corner, and so therefore it's appropriate that it has a general commercial zoning designation. We're trying to put a tenant in this building, get it occupied, generate some tax base for the county. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. McCarty, questions from the commission for the applicant's representative? Seeing none at this time. We have one request to speak form by Mr. Tom Quint. Sir, welcome back.
Thank you. Tom Quint, 6940 Southeast Ridgeway. Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, but you were wrong earlier when you were talking about Heritage Ridge, because we're Ridgeway. Okay, so you're talking about Heritage Ridge, and then the guy over here brings up Dollar General. It's on a street that nobody lives on, okay? Publix was built on.
Sir, address the comments generally to all of us.
Fair enough. I mean, he's.
No, I understand, you're
I know.
right, but just
Well,
speak
okay.
generally to all of us. You can say exactly what you're saying, just don't single out
Well, I'm
commissioners.
just saying it was wrong, but,
I apologize for the confusion.
all right, so Dollar General was built like a year ago, whatever, on a street that nobody lives on, okay? Publix was built on Osprey, nobody lives on it. There's no driveways, no nothing, okay? This is a totally different animal. This has got houses within 300 feet, 200 feet. You got houses right there. Now, another thing you guys were wrong on in general was that you can build a concrete structure home in Ridgeway. And no, I don't know if anybody knows that here or not, but there's homes in Ridgeway that are concrete homes. This fire station could be lived in as a concrete home. Well, you can roll your eyes, but
I'm saying
you
it's-
know,
look,
well, I'm just telling you. You guys got a decision to make, and I'm trying to give you the facts.
Absolutely, I'm
Okay?
glad you're here.
Right, so the staff, all they want to do is take the red and connect the dots. They just want to put that little portion of red right there. It's a whole different animal. This is all kids playing, kicking their ball out in the driveway. You got so much traffic going down, there's only one way in. The garbage company, UPS, Amazon, all the people that live there, all the guys coming in to do the AC repair work, everybody comes down that street. Martin County Water District is right behind me. They come up and down that street all day. That's the only way they can get out. So there's no right, when you leave there, you can't make a left turn. They're going to come down my street to go out the back way by Publix. It's not going to work, I'm telling you. It's a big disaster. This is a very unique little thing. You guys need to know that it could be used as a concrete house building right there, or they could build two houses on there if they want. Okay? The commercial zone that you're looking at right here to the north is a motorcycle dealership. They don't even use the whole parking lot. It's empty. I don't know what commissioner is in charge of my district, but just drive by there within the next week and look. They don't use it. They have two lunch wagon trucks that sit out there. All they do is run their stuff up and down the street, but they don't use that whole parking area. So it doesn't really impact us, but this is going to impact majorly. I'm not going to be able to get out of my driveway. The kids aren't going to be able to kick the ball in the street. They're not going to ride their bikes up and down the street. You're making a big mistake. This is a whole different animal, okay? You need to really look at that. And look at the zoning is open to concrete buildings, and that is a concrete building. They can live in it. I've bid on it. I bid over $200,000 on that place because I was going to live in it because I wanted that to stay the way it is. They have a fuel tank right now, 500 gallons, sitting there, not inspected by anybody. The county just washed their hands and walked away. It's right next to a drainage ditch. Nobody's doing nothing.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you, sir, appreciate your comments. When you're done, Mr. Fithian, if you could fill out a form.
I did for the last time as well.
I don't have them here.
My wife gave it to the sheriff, whoever you're supposed to give it to.
You really want to suspend that, you know?
My name is Jim Fithy, and I live in Palm City. There are, I guess, 800 residents who live in this particular trailer park. I'll bet you if you took a vote, not that you would or should, but if you took a vote, probably be 800 people would say they didn't want this. And you all just voted for it. I don't get it. The gentleman that came here took his time. Most of the people are at work today. They don't have time for this. I'm retired. But I'll tell you what, live in Palm City, nice development, probably nicer than the development that we're talking about. But these people deserve representation, and they didn't get it, okay? This one gentleman came today to discuss with you what this was going to mean. You had said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. It sounds to me like there's fear involved. Winston Churchill wouldn't have done what he did in World War II if he was concerned about fear, okay, of a lawsuit. I think that you should take a stand sometimes on these requests. The guy knew he paid $1 million for that piece of property, knowing what he was allowed to do and not do. And you just opened a door for him, okay, to change it. That's why they were here. If they didn't have to request that you would change it, they didn't need to be here. They'd have just done it. So I don't get it. It's very disappointing. And I think it's a shame that those 800 those people that live there have been misrepresented today. Very sad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else looking to address us on this topic? Please come forward. And you'll fill out a Form 2, please.
Thank you again, Linda Fithian in Palm City. So I just wanted to point out in the public hearing agenda, all the attachments that went with it included a Live Local excerpt. So why they put this Live Local excerpt in there for this piece of property means that when you zone something commercial, they can put affordable housing on here. It's a 0.65 acre lot. So if it's considered medium density or high density, whatever it's considered, these people could now have 15 to 30 units of affordable housing on here, no matter what the person here says they're going to do with it. You don't know that because you just zoned it, or you're going to try to zone it, general commercial. So I'm appalled, okay, because when people buy a piece of property zoned the way it's zoned, just because they bought it and they want to put something else on it doesn't mean that it should be done for the residents who have owned the property for years. I don't know anybody that lives there. I only met this gentleman today, so I have no personal anything. I just think it's a very big injustice, and I think we need to start standing for injustices and start saying no. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to go first or second?
I would defer to
Oh.
Commissioner Heatherington.
Commissioner Heatherington.
So, based on the residents' comments that, Mr. Quinn, I would like to suspend this particular item.
Table?
Table it. And then I would like to make a motion to reconsider the
Public
item.
hearing.
That we just had?
Yes, public hearing number 5. Public hearing number 5.
Public hearing number 5. And
Okay,
Ms.
let's
Woods, you
break
will
it down.
let us know what we need to do to do.
Well, first off,
So you're,
a couple things. We're suspending this specific agenda.
so
We
you're,
need a, Commissioner Heatherington wants to table this, so we need a motion
That's
to
what I was
table
gonna
it, and a second, and then a motion for reconsideration, and a second, and that goes that route.
So I'll make
Wait.
a motion to table.
motion to
Thank you.
table.
We have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington to table PHQJ-1, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, you want to make a motion,
I would like to make a motion to reconsider
public hearing number 5.
public hearing number 5.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington to reconsider the previous decision for public hearing number 5, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So now, I'm not familiar what we should be doing.
So under your rules of procedure, what you just voted on was you agreed to reconsider the vote. It has the effect of suspending the action until we can go back Once the majority vote is done, it will have the effect of suspending all action that the original vote would have required until the reconsideration is acted upon by the board at the same or subsequent meeting, which should have specified the time to reconsider would be. So we need to
So if the procedures provide at the meeting, this meeting, as long as the board says we're going to reconsider this maybe at a time certain to give the public notice, then we can reconvene at that time. I don't have the rules of procedure in front of me.
It'll make it confusing.
The provision is a majority vote, well, let's see, it suspends it until the reconsideration is acted upon by the board at the same or subsequent meeting, which should be specified at the time the motion to reconsideration is made. Oh, so we didn't do that. If the motion to reconsider is not, it can't be. If the vote to be reconsidered required particular notice, such notice is required before the reconsideration can be acted upon. So the notice was given at this meeting. If they revote today, we would be all right. The question would be, what, in your motion, Commissioner, did you intend to reconsider the
I
vote?
would motion to reconsider it today.
Today. So I believe, do we need to recess, Ms. Elder, to?
I think we can vote on that.
Okay.
And then are we going to do it the next item? Is there a time frame?
I get to make that. Well, we have lights on, so I would assume when I heard Commissioner Heatherington ask to reconsider it, I think as appropriate to the applicant and to her staff and to we'll reconsider it right now unless you needed time. I don't know I haven't conferred with anyone, so if it's going to be discussed right this minute, then I don't think you need to, we're in the same hour.
Right. We have the same
But if
people
it's
here.
going to
The
get postponed,
notice
then
has
that's a
been
whole
done.
nother story.
Yes.
But let me take a light from Commissioner Jenkins.
I would prefer to table it till another meeting so I can get more comfortable with the action that I took.
The vote, we voted to reconsider, but the date upon which the new action would be taken, you're asking for it to be another meeting? Okay. That would require re-notification.
It
of the
would, but
hearing.
I believe the statute passed for that we can open a public hearing, continue it to a date certain, and then you wouldn't have to renotice.
Oh, okay.
I believe. Correct.
So the
So that would
next
be an
meeting
option.
would be,
If the board didn't want to do it today, you could do it right now if you would like. But if the board doesn't want to do it today, we can, Commissioner Heatherington did a motion to reconsideration. We can reopen public hearing number 4. The board can, 5, I'm sorry, the board can continue that hearing for a date certain, and that would preclude, then the applicant would not have to renotice it and send all the property owners notice and re-advertise in the paper if we did a date certain today, if it's not reconsidered today.
Okay. May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
It seems that this has become a complicated item. I think, sir, I think even from the applicant's point of view and his representative, that maybe there is some kind of consideration between we're represented by one resident here, not many, but one, but he made a compelling argument. And it seems like there is confusion amongst some of the commissioners. If I were the applicant, if I would give you a humble recommendation, Mr. McCarty, I would potentially try to renegotiate this with the people that have issue and come up with something that might potentially work. The weird angle for me is that the person you're representing purchased the property from the county. So we're sort of in the mix here. But, I mean, you could continue to push this issue today, which is your prerogative, I believe, to an outcome you might not be happy with, which is our prerogative, versus maybe going back out and trying to come up with something that the gentleman and others that might come could support versus taking it on the chin today, potentially. 1 second. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, motions for reconsideration are extremely rare, but not unheard of. We've done this before, and it's the prerogative of any commissioner voting in the majority to, at the same meeting or at the next meeting, to make a motion to reconsider their vote on an agenda item. And that's exactly what Commissioner Hetherington did right now, because she wanted to reconsider her vote on public hearing number 5. So I think it's perfectly okay to vote on it today at your prerogative, or if you want to postpone it, perhaps you can postpone it for one more meeting, but no more than that. It has to be voted on immediately.
The motion for consideration has to be voted on immediately, but you can continue the actual public hearing to another date certain. It could be 2 weeks.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you're voting on it. If you open the public hearing, then you're taking the matter up, and then you can table it, I believe.
I'm going to.
I'm fine whether we reconsider it today or the next meeting on the 26th.
I think it's your preference.
So
motion
I'll motion to reconsider it, date certain, September 26th.
Okay. Commissioner Smith,
So to the applicant,
I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak.
I assume the applicant still, if this were to be reversed, I guess if you want to call that, if the decision's reversed, there's nothing that precludes the applicant from coming back with another ask at some time in the future.
Correct.
Let me make sure I understand the question. So the question is, right now, the motion for reconsideration has had the effect of suspending all action, and then the board can continue the matter to a date certain, which would be, what I'm hearing from Commissioner Hetherington, would be to continue it to the 26th. If at that hearing, just for the sake of argument, the board votes no, yes, they could always come back later, always, and ask for something else. It doesn't preclude anything.
I'm just
You're
sharing
correct.
that information with the public and the applicant.
Yes, yes,
Because there's some options here.
sure.
One is for the applicant to say, no, I'm not interested, and I'll take my vote and I'll go home. The other is to continue, if that is the motion that is ultimately made, and come back at another date. I suspect the room will be full. So to the applicant, I just prepare yourself for what that looks like, because this will generate its own life at this point. And then you'll have to consider what your options are. And I think to even the motion makers, for whether it's continued or it's dealt with today, that's all part of this. And so my sense is whatever direction it takes, it'll just get harder.
Mr. McCarty, you do not have to speak, but I'm giving you the opportunity to speak.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Could I ask the board some questions? May I?
I'll decide as you're asking.
Okay. When the board decided that this piece of property should be auctioned, it's obvious that if that's the case, your intent is for it to have some future use, right? And to be sold to the public, correct? I mean, that would be a logical assumption based on that. I think that's fair. So my question to the board, and I'm here to hear, what do you feel would be the appropriate use of this property?
1 second, sir. We heard you. Hold on 1 second. You lit the board up. We'll start with our attorney.
Sarah Woods, County Attorney, for the record. This property was sold as is, for is. There was no representation for this, so I would respectfully disagree with your statements completely. I do not believe the board indicated, when they put it on the surplus list, any kind of particular use for it, so that would be inappropriate. Also, from a legal standpoint, we wouldn't have been able to do that in the first place. So I think factually, this was sold as is with the current land uses in place. There was no representation or promise in any way, shape, or form. I would, because this matter is being continued, I would caution the board, since this is, and I'm going to defer to our land use expert, about questioning the board about what they think.
Correct, yeah.
I don't
Well, that's why.
believe that's
I said
appropriate.
depending on
Yes,
what
sir.
the questions were.
So
I wouldn't recommend the question and answer dialogue. We're in the motion for consideration
Yeah.
aspect, so that's kind of what motion we're talking about. I think we already closed the quasi judicial, tabled it, so.
My next question to you was, what agenda item are we in?
So right now, I think you tabled the quasi judicial. Commissioner Heatherington did a motion to reconsideration. That's what's up for discussion before the,
We
They
already-
voted. They
voted on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we
She
have.
did not specify, however,
Right, so
the,
then we did vote, but then Ms. Woods talked
Now we're
about.
talking time.
we need
You
to revote in to not only, the reconsideration passed, but there also needs to be a specified date, whether at the current meeting or, I think we did that, but just for clarity's sake, for the record.
The next step would be to reopen the public hearing and then either discuss it or continue it to a date certain. So we need to reopen public hearing number 5, and then you can decide if the board wants to address it today or if they want to continue it to a date certain, and we have to put the date and time certain on the record.
Understood. So, we have lights. Do you want to let's do that first. I would entertain a motion to reopen
PH5,
public hearing number 5.
so moved.
We
We did.
to reconsider.
So now we're reopening public hearing number 5.
Second the
We already
motion
have
to
it.
open.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So now we have reopened public hearing number 5. Let me just clarify. We have options now that we've heard from our legal team. We can have a conversation now and a vote now. We can have a conversation to discuss a date certain into the future, which Commissioner Heatherington has already specified should be on the 26th, which is our next immediate meeting. That's where we stand right now. I think we owe it to the applicant at least to have some type of a conversation, just not to get into the details of it, unless the board would say, we're hearing it right now. My suggestion to you, the applicant, is you wouldn't want to do that. Commissioner Heatherington.
My reconsideration is based simply looking at this map and how very, very close this parcel is to the neighboring mobile home. Very, very close. So the more I'm looking at this map, it's very tough to see, interaction with commercial going in and out of there.
Just to reiterate, either we're going to talk about it today or we're going to continue it. I'd rather not have a public hearing today and then table
We've
it.
reopened the public hearing.
It's reopened, but I think the decision first should be whether we're going to hear it today and have a conversation, or we're going to just table it and then have a conversation later, but not have conversations twice would be the best preference.
I'm prepared to vote today, but if the district commissioner would like more information, then I'm happy to.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Commissioner would like for himself to be a little more familiar and talk to our legal department for one, but also it gives, obviously it's going to fail, right? Just hearing. So it gives him the opportunity to do whatever he can do on his end to protect his client's interests, right, for 2 weeks. I don't think that's asking too much. That would be my preference.
Okay.
If there's ever been an agenda item that standing on the fence is for me, is this one. And you know what? Getting 2 weeks to understand it and feel better about it myself, that's the way I personally would feel about it.
Thank you. I would reiterate my recommendation is that I believe nearly every agenda item can be a yes or a no. It can pass or fail. I would engage your neighbors. I would engage the gentleman that's here as, but then go up and down the street. It's going to be something. Sir, it's going to be something. For me, the thing that makes this sort of very unique is the very small size of the property. However, it's fronting US 1. But that being said, to the back portion of the parcel is a fence and then a residential house. I think that the best way to go is to engage the neighbors your immediate constituency right there and say, what could work here? What could not? Mr. McCarty, one of the things that sticks in my head is when we were questioning the auction and,
We're getting head shaked.
okay, final comment.
Perfectly okay.
Yeah, I don't,
Quasi-judicial.
I don't know what I'm saying, that's so,
so
you know,
far anyways.
I can monitor my words. Yes, I can. It was an auction where the property was purchased as is, with no expectation of a zoning change. Your person purchased it understanding that something would happen. There's some heavy lifting that gets involved in making something happen to make the other folks that are affected come on board. If I were you, I would take the 2 weeks and engage your neighbors to come up with some recommendation that everyone can embrace. They'll have to understand that it's a commercial, it's a US 1 corner. But the argument that you're driving directly into a residential neighborhood with very few exits out, with houses directly right there, requires a little more effort than submitting an application to the county and hoping for the best. It's a cautionary tale for anyone that thinks they can come and just, look, we could barely get a second or a motion, so I mean, it's unique because it's a very challenging set of circumstances that your owner and you're an expert, you know how to do this, can address, but I would take that as a suggestion. I'd entertain a motion to when we will be hearing this again.
We did that, didn't we?
Not a motion. Not a motion.
You said to bring it back on the 26th.
Is that a motion?
Was a motion to bring it back on the 26th.
Okay.
At 9 o'clock or a time thereafter, so we designate exactly the time. And we just want to make sure that the applicant can be there, because if for some reason they can't be there and then it has to be postponed again, then you're going to have to provide the proper notice. So that's the only thing I would say before the board votes.
Does the 26th work for you as the applicant?
Can we set a time?
I'll make it it'll be the morning
You
preset.
have a dentist appointment at 8:30.
They never go well anyway.
I know.
So then you don't want to?
Well, I mean, needless to say, I'm pretty sure you were kidding. I get that you're not kidding about the dentist appointment, but I'm thinking a rescheduling would be appropriate of the dentist
I
appointment.
can do that.
I mean, if I was paying you, I don't know if dentist appointment carries as much. We shouldn't even be discussing it. This is Petticoat Junction. But look, the system, we call it making sausage. The system, there are public comment that asked to have this this is exactly what you would want. Mr. Quint, you've been here all day, you're doing your thing. We have a motion by Commissioner Hetherington for the 26th of September, immediately following whatever the opening, public comment. It'll be the first agenda item on the 26th. As the chairman, that's what I can give you. It was seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're going to see you Tuesday morning, September 26th.
We're going to be there.
Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. I bet you didn't think it was going to go like that.
Sorry, never can tell.
Hey, that's why we're all up here. Okay. Fiscal budget, we're not doing that. So public hearing quasi-judicial is off, number 1 is off. Let's go to, nobody's going to want to be next. Departmental quasi-judicial number 1. Request plat approval for a preserve at Park.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am?
Can we reopen the quasi-judicial so we can set that to a date certain as well? Otherwise, they will have to notice that.
You only suspended it, so you need to
Reopen it.
reopen the quasi-judicial. Yes.
Continue to a
Sorry.
date certain.
Got that fixed.
Move that
reopen.
sorry.
PHQJ1.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hurd to reopen public hearing quasi-judicial number 1, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We are reopened. I would now entertain a motion.
Continue the item until September 26, shortly after 9:30-ish.
Immediately following public hearing number 5.
Right.
Which might not be public hearing number 5 on the 26th, but you know what we mean.
Correct.
That motion was made by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Is this an old lighter? Thank God. That being said, Mr. McCarty, have a great rest of the day. Our next agenda item is departmental public hearing, quasi-judicial number 1, request for plat approval for the preserve at Park Trace Planned Unit Development V038-04. It'll be presented by, you ready? Mr. Brian
Elam.
Elam, and it's quasi-judicial. So Commissioner Smith, do you have any ex parte communications?
I don't know if I have, they're filed.
Commissioner Heatherington?
If any, they've been filed.
I don't have any. That's been filed. Commissioner Jenkins?
If I have any of them, it's filed.
Commissioner Hurd?
I don't have any yet. They've been filed.
Anyone looking to make public comment, please, not public comment, anyone looking to participate in the hearing, please stand to be sworn in.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Are there return receipts that are needed? No? Do you have a copy of your work history and the agenda item, Mr. Elam? Are there any interveners?
No interveners.
Okay, look at that. Mr. Elam, good afternoon, you are recognized.
Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with Growth Management. This is a request by D.R. Horton for plat approval of the Preserve at Park Trace Planned Unit Development. Included with this application is a request for a Certificate of Public Facilities Exemption. Preserve at Park Trace PUD zoning agreement master final site plan were approved on September 28, 2021. The project includes 114 single-family lots on approximately 97 acres and is located on the south side of Southeast Cove Road, directly across from the intersection of Southeast Willoughby Boulevard. There were minor technical revisions required to the approved master final site plan, and so this agenda item includes the First Amendment. It's an excerpt of the title page for the plat, includes 7 pages. You have an aerial view of the site being developed in the approved master's final site plan. Per Article 10 of the Martin County Land Development Regulations, plat applications require review and recommendation by the county administrator, with final action being provided by the Board of County Commissioners in a public meeting. Review of this application by the LPA is not required. Development review staff have found the application to comply with all applicable regulations in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan as detailed in the staff report. Staff approves this application, and we move that the board receive and file the agenda item and its attachments, including the staff report, as Exhibit 1. Move that the board approve the Preserve at Park Trace PUD plat, including the contract for construction of required improvements in infrastructure, and move that the board approve the First Amendment to the Preserve at Park Trace PUD, updating the master final site plan. And that concludes the presentation.
Sir, thank you very much. Questions for staff from the commission? Seeing none. Mr. Crady, good afternoon. You're representing the applicant, I assume.
Yes, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Morris Crady. I'm senior partner with Lucido and Associates, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant and the owner. And as you can see from the aerial, we've been under construction for over a year now, and following all of the codes and requirements and taking care of our neighbors. With that understanding, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but we're obviously in support of staff's recommendation of approval.
Questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none. Anyone from the public looking to address us on this item? This is departmental quasi-judicial number 1. Seeing none. Back to the board.
Staff's recommendation.
I'm sorry?
Staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith for staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Our next agenda item is departmental quasi-judicial number 2, a request for plat approval for Sago Bluff, H148-003. It'll be presented again by Mr. Brian Elam. It's quasi-judicial, so let's begin the process. Do you have any ex parte communications, Commissioner Smith?
I do not, and if I have any, they're filed.
Commissioner
I
Heatherington?
do not, and they're filed.
Commissioner Jenkins?
I did not, they've been filed.
Commissioner Hurd?
I do not, and they've been filed.
I do not, and that's been filed. Anyone that's going to be offering any testimony, please stand to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you
You don't have to.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do you have a copy of your work history and the agenda item?
I do.
Are there any return receipts necessary?
No return receipts are necessary. No interveners.
Thank you. Mr. Elam, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Chairman. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with Growth Management. This is,
Give that.
This is a request by John T. Dolvin for plat approval of the Sago Bluff development. Included with this application is a request for a certificate of public facilities exemption. Sago Bluff project received final site plan approval on September 30th, 2021. The site consists of a 10-lot mixed-use subdivision and associated infrastructure improvements on approximately 1.62-acre parcel located on the south side of Northeast Dixie Highway between Northeast Sago Drive and Northeast Hillcrest Lane within the Rio Community Redevelopment Area. There's an aerial of the property location and a screenshot of the plat. Review by the local planning agency is not required per Article 10. Staff has reviewed this application and found that it complies with all the regulations in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan as detailed in the staff report. And staff recommends approval of this application. We move that the board receive and file the agenda item and its attachments, including the staff report, as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the Sago Bluff plat, including the contract of construction of required improvements in infrastructure. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Elam? Seeing none. Sir, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mike McCarty, McCarty and Associates Land Planning and Design, representing the applicant. Here for any questions you may have. This is very straightforward. We've already received site plan approval some time ago, and this is the subsequent plat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, I have one request to speak form so far. It's by Ms. Julie Priest. Ms. Priest, good afternoon and welcome back.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board and staff. Let me start with a little history. The Rio Civic Club was created, I am here representing the Rio Civic Club. The Rio Civic Club was created in 1950, 73 years ago, to improve conditions in Rio. An FDOT landscape beautification grant was awarded to the Rio Civic Club over 20 years ago when Commissioner Wilcox was our district commissioner. The Dixie Highway right-of-way on this parcel contains the landscaping that was installed as part of that grant. This vacant parcel is located across the street from Jensen Beach Bowl and is just west of Langford Landing. We anticipate that the Sago Bluff lots will draw similar quality residences. Lots in Rio's older subdivisions are platted at 25-foot wide and starting at 25-foot wide, and Sago Bluff has 10 lots that range from 64 feet to 100 feet, over 100 feet in frontage, and 72 feet to over 100 feet in depth. There are fewer than a handful of vacant residential lots on the market in Rio. And the Rio Civic Club welcomes this opportunity for 10 residential lots and this investment in Rio. We also welcome the 804 additional sidewalk linear feet that are associated with this project. This plat was presented to the Rio CRA, and we ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else looking to address us on this topic? Seeing none, back to the board.
Staff's recommendation.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith for staff's recommendation of approval, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Gentlemen, thank you. Mr. McCarty, thank you. Okay, we have a 3 o'clock preset. Departmental number 4, the 2024 state and federal legislative programs. It'll be presented by Ms. Sarah Powers, but what I'd like to do is take our closed captioning break now for 10 minutes, and we'll pick it up when we come back. Thank you very much. We are back from our mid-afternoon closed captioning break to continue our September 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting. We have a 3 o'clock preset. We're a couple of minutes behind that. Departmental number 4, the 2024 state and federal legislative programs. It'll be presented by Miss Sarah Powers. Ms. Powers, you are recognized.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hi,
Oh, Kim Levy stepping in to...
your Administrative Services Manager. I'm here with Ms. Powers, who will actually present the legislative programs for the state and the federal in 2024. They're both for consideration today. I just wanted to give special thanks to John Mayle, who is not here today. He's a large part of the legislative team, and we wanted to make sure that we said thank you to him for helping us put this presentation together. Also throwing this out there, our communications divisions put together the 2 packets you have in front of you. They spent a lot of time putting everything together, and I just wanted to say thank you to Martha, Ann, and Courtney both. Ms. Powers?
It's on the record now. Thank you.
I want to make sure we got that on the record.
It is.
So as Kim said, these are our state and federal legislative priorities. They might look a little familiar because they're pretty much the exact same from last year, except for our appropriations, which we'll get into. Oops. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with our first ask is the Bessie Creek capacity improvements. We'll be requesting $7 million, and Representative Overdorf will be handling that for us. This project replaces 3 culverts in Martin Downs. Basically, it's going to turn them into bridges to improve flow, reduce flooding, and improve water quality downstream from those. So that's project number 1. Number 2, we have County Road 714 realignment with 710. That is a request for $5.1 million, and Representative Overdorf will be handling that one as well. This is going to be a collaborative effort with Okeechobee County as well, so we're going to request that Representative Kaylee Tuck and Senator Albritton also join the team on this. Because they are, where the road aligns, it's actually in Okeechobee County, and it's also 2 different FDOT districts, so we'll ask that we all work together to get this done. Next, we have the Kitchen Creek Eastern Flowway Restoration. For $1.5 million ask, Representative John Snyder will be handling that for us as it is in Hope Sound. This project will help restore the connection to the drainage basin and rehydrate wetlands and reduce seasonal flooding. Our next is actually a repeat from last year. We're asking $5 million. Last year, we were appropriated $1 million for this project, but we're asking for the remaining $5 million to make sure the project comes to fruition. So that's a $5 million ask. Representative Snyder will be handling that for us. And that is the I didn't introduce the project, the Martin County Fire Rescue Public Safety Training Tower. And that's a facility out there. And our last appropriation is for the Martin County Sheriff's Office Mental Health Housing Pod, and that's a $5 million request for startup money.
May I stop you there?
Yes.
I'm sure you're well-versed on it, but there is someone more well-versed than you that we are very pleased to have here with us. So why don't we hear directly from the boss on why this is an important ask for Martin County.
I agree.
Have fans.
Sheriff?
With his fan club.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I've been invited to come back at 5. I'm hoping I don't get boozed at 5 instead of again.
That's how the day goes.
You all have had a long day. You're going to have a long night, I think. So I'll be very brief. First of all, our manager is here with us. I appreciate her being here today and some of my other staff, and we'll be back later tonight. I think Ms. Powers said it best. We really would love to get started on conceptual. We've more than conceptualized what we want to do. What we need now is a study to tell us exactly how much it would cost, what the layout might look like. I think this ask is a fair ask. I'm not sure what the legislature's appetite will be. But I think it's the right move right now is to try to draw down some state dollars and see if they would buy into our, I think what's now become our collective belief in this community, I think in this board, that we do something more than what we're doing now with people who have mental illness who run afoul of the law, and create an environment where they can go and begin to recompensate. They come in, and they immediately begin to decompensate. And I believe very strongly, and I was talking to the Administrator Donaldson a moment ago. I think it's become the human justice, human rights issue of our day. There's so much mental illness in our community, in the country, that to have a place where someone who is mentally ill, run afoul of the law, to begin the healing process only makes sense. And it's the right thing to do. And I think this ask is a step in the right direction.
I would completely agree. Commissioner Smith.
Sheriff, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
I really should have met with you prior to this because I might ask some questions that seem, why didn't you ask me before on those questions? But I don't think it's not that you can't answer them. Have you and your staff had a conversation with leadership in Tallahassee as to what that appetite is for doing this? I mean, do we have a sense at all?
Yes. I had one conversation with the
I know somebody.
Local rep?
with the deputy majority leader of the Florida House, who's in leadership, and I'm not sure that we would be able to swing this big of an ask as seed money or whatever we want to refer to it as. But there is an appetite. Yes, mental illness is hot, and yes, so the answer is I do think we would find a receptive ears.
So I'm not suggesting that we change the ask. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to think down the road a little bit. How do we set ourselves up for the much bigger ask that will come if we get this, if we are to receive this, then there is the much bigger ask of how do we build it or how do we fund building it, right? And so when I was talking to our staff about this and the other appropriation steps, how do we position ourselves, how do we position you, or how do you position it with us, that the ask is of state significance, that it sets the mold or the template for the state to follow for whether these are going to be regional facilities or they're going to be county by county. I don't know if I can't imagine that every one of the 67 counties doesn't have the same issue that we are having. I would assume it's across the platform.
That's the exact right question, Commissioner, and I was talking with the administrator, our county administrator. So without getting into the weeds, you have such a long day. We have to make a decision somewhere along the line. Some of that decision will be impacted by what we feel the appetite for the House is, the feedback we get from House staff in appropriations. If we went to the state and tried to pitch this as a regional facility where we would draw critical inmates or inmates with trouble, mental illness from, it would be Okeechobee County, Indian River, St. Lucie, and Martin. That's our region. That's where our state attorney's over, and that region makes sense. If we were to do that, I think there would be a much bigger appetite in Tallahassee to fund us for a regional. The problem with that would be, it would depend on how much they would be willing to give us, and that's going to be a policy decision for you all. At some point, if the money was so good, we could do a regional, and it would work. We could make it work. The problem we would have to deal with is we don't want, because they put in some good money for the next 20 years for the people of Martin County to bear the whole cost. So we would need buy-in from those sheriffs. We would need commitments, not just commitments, we would need contracts, MOUs, stating that they would put in manpower. No matter what, you can't fund a whole regional facility with manpower based on Martin County tax base. So if the upfront money was right, or the money from the state was right, and we could get buy-in from the other 3 sheriffs, the regional concept might work. I think the biggest thing about the regional concept is it would be much more desirable in Tallahassee. We just have to make sure it's practical.
And I only kind of throw that out there with how we all know how Tallahassee looks at things and how they view ideas. And I don't know if you're the only jurisdiction that's asking the question, can we have one? Can we design one? Can we put one together? I'm just suggesting that maybe as a parallel track out there, we start a conversation to say, should it be remember how the old trauma centers were? Trauma centers, we used to have trauma districts. And there was a time where Martin County was never going to get a trauma hospital because of the cost and the scale at which those things operate. And so we used to go south for trauma, or we went eventually to the north because of just the demographics and how things worked. But it was because of the overhead and the scale at which those facilities operate at. And so it just got me thinking about this, going, okay, if the number was what we talked about before in the presentation a couple months ago as to the build number, the cost number, does it start to get to a legislative ask to where someone's going to say at some point, how do we consolidate these things statewide, like the trauma care districts? And if the state is going to be on the hook for some portion of it, does it make sense to have that conversation? The other thing that I don't remember from the presentation, although I think it was in there, I'm not sure, is it your anticipation, or does the model that you showed us, I think it was the Texas one or whatever was the super nice one that you presented?
Dallas.
Dallas? Did it have its own medical facility built in? It did. And that also got me thinking, that's where I started to think about like the trauma care centers. That if there's a medical center, the amount of staff, the discipline of staff that you would have to deal with that versus taking them to a Cleveland clinic, if that's what the alternative was. Again, does that get on a scalable picture that it starts looking like, is it, and maybe it's not Indian River, but it makes sense if that's the judicial district. Just for thought, it wasn't to take it off track of where you are. I'll help you up there, whatever direction you want to go in. I'm just thinking how they are going to respond to the ask. And are we capable and flexible enough if we have to move in a direction to go in that kind of a direction?
I'm 100%, yes, I'm very flexible. I think one of the questions, and you're right on target, you're a mind reader. I have chafed at the fact that in the almost 12 years I've been sheriff, every time we have to arrest an inmate and there's a little boo-boo on their head, we have to go to Martin Memorial, and you all, the taxpayers, have to pay the bill. Dade County, which is where I was used to, had its own prison ward. So the ultimate would be to have our own ward where not major trauma, but inmates that come in injured or they have to be viewed for X amount of hours because they're so intoxicated. If we could have that model, I guarantee you we could draw a huge interest from St. Lucie and from Indian River if they could bring people here. But it would be a big lift. What I don't want, and just so that I don't forget, I would love to go to those trauma centers and see how thrilled they are when Martin County people come flying in there. I don't know that it works out financially for them, and that's what I keep not wanting to stick the taxpayers of Martin County in the out years with a burden that they may someday come to resent.
I apologize for not having that
Great idea.
conversation
I love it.
prior to it. It just got me thinking, at some point, I would think the legislature is going to say, okay, we have an ask from the central part of Florida, we have an ask from the northeast central part of Florida, wherever. What is the statewide policy, and how do we allocate the dollars that are going to be needed to fund it? Because if it is the kind of money we talked about, I don't know where, other than the legislature, that comes from.
The big problem, and I'm done. The big problem the legislature will encounter is the same fears that I move forward here, and that is they may help us with the initial cost that makes it very, very desirable. But what happens 5, 10, 15 years from now when we're bringing in mentally ill people from Indian River County at the expense of Martin County? If we could work it out on 2 levels, so float down the track, 2 tracks. Track 1, get sufficient funding from the state that it makes sense. Track 2 is get an understanding from the contributing sheriff's offices that, yes, from now on, we will put X amount of employees in there and an X amount of dollars. It has to be able to fund itself in the out years.
Thank you.
Thank you. But in the meantime, the original vision is a pod on the jail property
Yes.
that you can fit. You had mentioned this to us in the past, and I've heard at taxpayers' lunch where you and your team had made a presentation of the necessity of it. Do you want to share any of that for some people that are paying attention today that didn't get an opportunity? They hear what you're saying, but they might not know the dramatic catastrophe you're dealing with.
Well, in a Reader's Digest, because your time is valuable, we encounter people all the time that the main problem they have is mental illness. They're not necessarily criminals. You know, as we speak, we're bringing a carload of people who went through our county this morning. Saturday, they hit one of our people that live in this county, broke into the car, and stole their money that they'd just taken out of the bank. We followed them today up into another county, and we got them, so they're coming back. But those are hardcore criminals. They woke up this morning with a design in mind to go steal. Mentally ill people, on the other hand, just woke up this morning. They had no desire to be a criminal. They just woke up, and maybe they're not taking their medication. Maybe they're living, you know, on a couch at their mother's house. You kind of let them back in, and she can't get out to get their meds. So they're off their meds. They have an episode. They run out in the yard. Next thing you know, they're in the neighbor's yard. They're trespassing. The neighbor goes out, and they push the neighbor or hit the neighbor or a lot worse. So they've committed a crime. My staff are not psychologists. We can't go out and go, oh, you're mentally ill, so we're not going to charge you. It doesn't work that way. They've committed a battery. So therefore, we have to arrest them. That person gets the same exact treatment as the juggers, which is the nickname we use for these bank people that steal from people who went to the bank. That jugger's going to come in today to our jail, the Major's jail. I'm sorry, the Captain's jail. The Major's behind me. You like the promotion?
I said good for you. We heard it.
I was pointing that way. I said Major. So the juggers are going to come in today through our Sally Port, fingerprint, photograph. Their clothes are going to be taken from them. They're going to be given inmate clothing. They're going to go through assessment, and then they're going into a pod. The person who woke up that did what I said earlier, who woke up, didn't have their meds, and attacked their neighbor because they're mentally ill. There was no real criminal intent. They were just mentally ill. They're going to come in and do the same thing. They're going to go into the same Sally Port, the same loud doors, the same gray walls, the noise. They're going to have their clothes taken from them. They're going to be given an orange jumpsuit. They're still not well. We might have to fight with them. She might have to put them in a restraining chair. It's a horrible situation. Then what do I do with them? I put them in with regular inmates? No, I can't. So I lose all the space where they go so I can protect them, and then I move other people that have been classified misdemeanor felonies. We don't like them together, so I got to put them together so I make room for that decompensated mentally ill person. And that is, in a Reader's Digest, what they have to do 24 hours a day.
Can you tell us the percentage of inmates that come in like that?
It varies between 25 and 30%. If you come visit our jail, the highlight of the day is when the nurse's cart comes around and they get their psychotropic drugs. What's our percentage now? 32%. Last time I was here, it was 25.
Yeah, well,
3 out of 10 inmates are diagnosed with mental illness and are being treated in our jail. They don't belong there. That's it. They don't belong there.
I agree. And then that percentage, it's not like a few and far between situation where you say, well, you could sort of adjust. That's why the pod, you know, those of us that got to hear the presentation a couple of times, I think, you know, and you're an expert at it, and your department is obviously an expert at it. The public needs to hear this. The general public needs to hear. I mean, I think people have a concept that there's mental illness and involved in corrections and law enforcement, but not to 32%.
Well, Commissioner Smith, last time I was here, encouraged me to go out in the public and share. So we have another, I think we're going to be at Harrying the Natives any day now at a chamber event. Are we, Commissioner? And we're going to present there. I'll go anywhere. Anybody wants to talk about it, I'll go.
I have a venue for you coming up, Dish with the Commish. So thank you. Yeah, that's copyrighted. Anyway, any other questions, comments for the sheriff? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I won't be back today.
Yes, please come back. Please come back for everything else
I'll be
other than
back.
that.
Or you can just stay for the afternoon.
Yeah. Commissioner Hetherington, we have more.
I don't have a question for the sheriff, but I do have a question while we're on the appropriations requests.
Okay.
So the county, and I probably would have told me this if I had met with you, County Road 714 realignment, so I get it, we're making a legislative appropriation request, and we've talked about this at MPO, all the different scenarios, but wasn't it DOT funded? So, for the alignment?
So funny, I asked this.
Let the expert.
And you would have explained that if we would have met in private, but I didn't get to meet with you, so.
Jim Gordon, Public Works Director. The project is funded for design, but there's no funding currently for construction. So this is the projected construction cost.
So, would this accelerate, asking for an appropriation for a DOT project, would it accelerate the project, or how would that work?
The Commissioners, that's what we're hoping, is that it will accelerate it. The other complicating factor is that it's in 2 districts. And so the 2 counties have made it a priority, and the 2 DOTs are looking for the county's cooperation and how it'll be operated, because they're ultimately 2 county roads that intersect a state road. And our goal is to get the DOT to fund it, with the counties continuing to operate it. So, and because of this line between the 2 DOT districts, neither one of them jumping to the lead saying it's mine, the hot potato is really in the 2 counties' lap. And so we're advocating a state appropriation that will actually go through the DOT, that will come most likely to either to one of the DOTs to actually construct, or if need be, the Martin County would be the lead on getting it constructed. So it'll be either that's the way we see it. So I think it's important that that we get the legislature to take to appropriate the funds, because neither district wants to give up their funds. They would rather the other district, District 4, to give up the funds, or the other district. And so this way we can put a fine point to that, Tallahassee is committed to funding this and to get it done, to get it moved into one district or the other, or to Martin County. Either way, we'll get it done.
Okay, so it makes more sense, because either way, we're going to push one of the DOT districts, leverage them through this appropriation. I think that we could add some, because it wasn't at the alignment spot, but as you know, there was a fatality again on 710 this weekend. It was more towards Tommy Clements, but the DOT's Vision Zero is everything that they're promoting now. So I would put those words in there somewhere for just constantly hammer on safety of residents and somehow aligning the DOT's Vision Zero policy. That's all for me.
Commissioner Smith.
On that topic, we had a very similar conversation, and I think, Don, if the way you explained it, have we had any kind of communication with FDOT that they are in agreement with us asking for a line item for this kind of a thing?
We have had preliminary conversations with DOT District 4, and really what it comes down to is when a project comes to the board, to the MPO board, the MPO is really a long-range planning function. So they're looking at 5 and 10 years out for projects. It sounds like all the parties would like to accelerate this faster than 10 years out, but right now it doesn't have funding all the way out to the 10-year threshold.
So the only reason I asked that, and the way Don said it, I think he answered it. I just want to make sure. In the past, line item FDOT requests are sometimes met with not happy endings, because FDOT has a budget process and they build their budget around a strategic plan and blah, blah, blah. And so when I asked our guys, you weren't there, but when we had our conversation, I just make sure we're not running afoul of their process, that they're supporting us in the ask and not at the end of the day angry at us because we went around them and went through the legislature to get funding for something otherwise they would have funded if it had gone through the proper process.
So we had a preliminary meeting with them. We have another meeting with them next week, so we'll continue the dialogue.
And on our end, if we need to be communicating with whoever at the state level, FDOT and so on, more than happy to do so. Stacy's 100% on right with the
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero issue. And my conversation was that I know we only have so much space in our bullet pointed thing. But that's why words matter and things are important that we put in there, and maybe like right at the very top, Vision Zero, absolutely imperative. Did you have anything else? Because I had a couple other comments, but I didn't want to step in front of you on anything else.
No, I'm done. Yeah, that's.
And just some of the other, it was minor critiquing from my discussions, commissioners, with them. All I would try to make sure that we do with these asks, because in the last few years, our appropriation asks have been whittled down to, if we had 3 or 4, we've been getting 1. And so that we make sure that we communicate it in such a way that there is a state compelling interest, which is kind of the conversation we just had with the Sheriff's Department on why would this project be important to the state, and does this mean on a statewide basis that the state's getting something for the money they're investing into it, so it doesn't get vetoed, or if there's a way to get it through an agency funded through the appropriate agency, which was back to FDOT with your question. If that's the right place to take it, great, because we have been nixed a lot in the last 5-6 years or so on our request, and so just trying to make sure that we can be as successful as possible. Also on this one, the graphic for me was the number one, the Bessie Creek one was a little confusing because it doesn't really kind of show what the projects are going to be. And it's really as much about a water quality project as it is fixing, the way you get from point A to point B. Kitchen Creek, the same thing on the flowway restoration. In the explanation, it's a very complex final result if this is all successful. But at the end of the day, the state's interest is we are getting more fresh water to Jonathan Dickinson Park and to the Loxahatchee, which is a wild and scenic waterway. And so I think we should also make sure we touch on those comments, because those are state components, those are state things of interest. It's not a Martin County-centric project that's only benefiting Martin County from state dollars. Lastly, on the fire rescue training tower, another thought I asked, and whether it goes in the background information or it goes up front. If you all recall, when we did the original scoping of this, one of the major issues relative to having a training facility, there were 2, at least as I recall. One was keeping our staff in county, in service, and reducing the overhead cost of taking them to Indian River State College for their training out of county, because they were still on duty when they went out of county to go do those training times. The ability for us to bring in out-of-county staff training here, which starts to take it to a more regional discussion and starts to give a state compelling reason why you would have it. And the third reason, more centric to Martin County, but clearly for the region, if we were to have the training facility in Martin County, our ISO rating, we have the potential to lower the ISO rating number by having it in the county, which to all of our taxpayer ratepayers, and probably one of the largest conversations going on in the community relative to the state, are insurance rates. And if we can help in some shape, form, or fashion lower residential insurance rates because we have a training facility and a tower in Martin County, that's a benefit to the state and certainly to our residents. I know it was a lot, but
Valid. I'm going to allow it.
thank you.
Okay, please continue on page 7.
Okay. So these are just our priorities, our policy statements, too far. What we support, all the same from last year. I think there was just a few years and technicalities. So obviously, one of our priorities would be conservation, land acquisition, septic to sewer conversion, continuing to go after grants through the state, supporting biosolids pilot project, coral reef funding, the Indian River Lagoon Estuary Program, Loxahatchee River Preservation Initiative, We put in a policy about home rule and unfunded mandates, what we support and what we will oppose. Water quality, again, and our human services, fully supporting SHIP and the Sadowski Fund, economic growth, making sure that we keep Visit Florida fully funded, oppose any changes to bed tax, and then our infrastructure and recreation and transportation section, just continuing to support grants for our historic preservation and to continue to support the 5-year work plan for DOT. So that is our state priorities.
1 second, please.
Okie dokie.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, Gil Smart from the Friends of the Everglades came to visit us this morning and also added that we asked that we add in protections for the wetlands at the state level as a result of the Supreme Court decision, and also asked that we weigh in on the preemption bill for fertilizer ordinances. Those are both excellent suggestions.
Absolutely.
Incorporate them.
I took note of those as well, so we'll go back to staff and see how we incorporate those somewhere in here.
Terrific. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith, is this a new light?
Yes.
Very well.
Back to septic and sewer, 2 thoughts that I also shared with our staff, and I shared at the 16 County Coalition meeting the other day. In light of the conversation that we had with New Monrovia, a thought I've had kind of thinking about how can we position ourselves and how can other communities throughout the state position themselves in a way where we have fiscally constrained neighborhoods or census tracts. I've talked to our whole delegation about it. They were very receptive to the idea about language getting created to add into the granting process for septic to sewer, that if there was a way to define fiscally constrained census tracts, that might be very helpful for us, and certainly in other parts of the state where neighborhoods just can't afford to do the cost at which we can get these projects to or whatever. So the thought I share with all of you to think about if that's something we want to look at. And then the other idea was, one of the issues that came up during that conversation was that we had received X amount of $1 million from the state, from DEP in grants, but that we weren't able to layer on the Indian River Lagoon grant funding because you could either have one or you could have the other. You couldn't have both. And when I talked to our delegation about it, I said, look, the goal should be to get as many septic tanks as quickly as possible off the septic system world and into a sewer line connection. If we are going to get challenged by whether they're fiscally constrained neighborhoods or just difficult projects to pull off, yet all this money is getting allocated through various programs, why couldn't we layer on top if it were appropriate, if it made sense? If the project had a direct connection to the Indian River Lagoon or the outfalls did, that would be affected by those septic tanks, is there not a correlation between layering those things? At the end of the day, all of that money needs to get committed and go to what it was entitled to go to, which was converting people off of septic tanks. And us turning back money and then trying to go back for new money seems incredibly counterintuitive to me, and risky, that we don't maybe get what we thought we were going to try to get. So that was another idea for the septic to sewer conversion program. There seemed to be at the 16 County Coalition some general consensus that both of those ideas were worthy pursuing. And so at least I would share with our staff that it's something we could at least ask around the horn to see what people are thinking about that kind of a thought.
Add one thing. I would just add on the septic to sewer, because I sometimes get mixed signals on whether or not you can combine the pots of money. And from the presentation that we received at Indian River Lagoon Council from Adam Blaylock, he did a fantastic presentation from the DEP. I would ask that we invite him to come and do that presentation here, because I anticipate that they will have similar funding this next cycle. And I think we'll be asking similar questions. So even though this cycle is kind of going into the session, I anticipate it'll have the same result the next So I would invite him to come and do that presentation. He had also some very interesting things to share about some of their initiatives for septic tanks into 2030. So I think he did a fabulous presentation, and he would be a great person to present.
I will allow it. Please continue.
Unless there's any questions we're done with the state, so we'll go to the
Don't
federal.
ask for questions, just continue.
Okay, continue on. Continuing to our federal booklet, as you will. It's exactly the same as last year. So, again, and it's very similar to the state. Obviously, water, we're going to support SERP, the WRDA Act, continue support passage of that, the Indian River Lagoon South Restoration Projects, beach restoration and inlet management. Oh, sorry, I wasn't going through it. And the Resilient Reefs Act, requesting that we continue that fund. And again, back to conservation land acquisition, which is also a state priority.
Commissioner Smith.
Just a couple follow-ups on this as well. At NACO earlier this summer, we were successful in getting all 4 of our federal policy languages inserted into NACO's policy language at the Environmental, Energy, and Land Use Committee. They have been adopted, and one of them on there is pertinent to Senator Rubio's legislation that he has in to modify the Stafford Act, which is what controls the dredging and mining industry and would allow offshore sand sourcing to be able to help Southeast Florida relative to getting alternative sand sources. We are okay here relative to our sand sourcing, but the further south you go, the much more complicated the volumes of sand become. And so I think it would be really super helpful for us to, I don't know if it actually gets put into our language in here, but if we can add that somewhere, I think that would be super helpful.
Would you like all of them added, or just the sand?
Well, one of them was the Water Resource Development Act. The other was the sand source. The third was the CNSF long-range funding and planning strategy, which, if you don't all know what that is, it is like SERP 2. It is what created SERP in the first place, but a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the structures are at their capacity, and they are projected to start failing relative to different levels of water in the next 6 years, plus or minus, which will exacerbate problems of projects that we were building today. And so we're trying to get that back on the platform again up north, up in DC. And then the fourth one, what am I missing?
I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look. It's been.
It was consistent with what we're doing,
Yeah.
but I think that's it.
Okay, so we'll just add the sand one then.
It might have been the Resilient Reefs Act might have been part of that as well.
Yeah, I think it was.
And just to let you all know too, in talking to Joanna Walzak the other day and others, because of the water temperatures we've seen this summer, we are experiencing exponential bleaching again and failure out on the reefs. Not that we have overcome what has been going on for the last 7 or 8 years, but it is exasperating the complexity of what's happening out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Up, so close. Commissioner Hetherington.
I think that'd be an interesting, speaking of the bleaching, an interesting presentation at some point in the future. They did one at AWRA. It was very, very interesting. So I think it would be a interesting presentation on the coral reefs and the bleaching and the effect of the water temperature. And so
Joanna is one of the finest coral reef experts in the country, if not in the whole coral reef world. So
is she with NOAA?
DEP.
Okay.
But she'll come at a moment's notice if we want her to come to a presentation, which would be great.
Absolutely.
Anything further?
Nope. So with those changes that we discussed, just ask that you change it from considered to adopted, and we can go ahead and make those changes and then publish it.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith to formally adopt with the changes that were discussed, both the state and federal legislative programs for 2024. It was seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item, departmental number 1, Office of Management and Budget items which require board approval. Believe it or not, there are 18 of them, and they'll be presented by Ms. Jennifer Manning. Ms. Manning, good afternoon and welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, OMB Director. The first item on the agenda is permission to apply and accept the State Division of Library Information Services annual grant, and that is for $77,132. The funds will be used to used for free library services for Martin County residents, and the budget resolution will come back to the board once they finalize the grant. Second item is permission to apply to the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission Habitat Management Assistant Grant for $15,000. The funds will be used to enhance the gopher tortoise, gopher tortoise habitat at the Halpatioke Regional Park, and there is no match required. The next item is also similar. It's permission to apply for funding through, did I miss? Okay. Went too fast, sorry. Permission to apply to the Florida Fish and Wildlife, again, conservation, to enhance the gopher tortoise habitat at the Map Creek Preserves. That is also for $15,000, and there's no match required. Item number 4 is permission to apply to the Florida Inland Navigation District, which is also known as FINE, for the derelict vessel removal funds. They fund up to 75%. This ask is for $32,546.25. There's a match required for $10,848.75, and that's available in the derelict vessel fund removal fund program. Item number 5 is permission to apply for the Resilient Florida Implementation Grant through FDEP, which is Florida Department of Environmental Protection, for Jensen Beach Causeway. Just want to mention that this project is not currently identified in the CIP. The project consists of a replacement of approximately 1.75 linear feet of damaged seawall, which was damaged during Hurricane Nicole. The funds that are asking for is $375,000, and it also requires a $375,000 match, which will be funded through the coastal CIP funds, and we're hoping that we can request those funds from FEMA, so that will go back into the coastal fund. Item number 6 is also permission to apply for the 2025 Resilient Implementation Program grant for Mangrove Island Shoreline Stabilization, and this is also not identified in our CIP for 24. The Mangrove Island within the Okeechobee Waterway downstream of S80 Lock has been severely degraded by erosion, boat wakes, and dredging on both sides. So that's also a grant that they were asking for in the amount of $750,000. There's a match of $750,000 that is anticipated through FINE, which is Florida Inland Navigation District. The project scope will include assessments, design, permitting, and construction. Item number 7, and these are all public, I must, give kudos to Public Works Department, because they are applying for a lot of grants that are very effective. Okay. So we hope they get all of them. Anyway, number 7 is permission to apply for the FY25 Resilient Florida Implementation Grants through FBDP for the Stewart Causeway shoreline. This project is also not identified in the CIP. The project consists of replacement of 2,500 linear feet of riprap shoreline and the area behind the existing seawall which is eroded and damaged during the Hurricane Nicole. So the amount they're requesting is $200,000, which requires a $200,000 match, which is in the coastal capital. And we're anticipating grants, hopefully reimbursement from FEMA, because this is due to Hurricane Nicole. Item number 8 is permission to apply for the FY24 Florida Department of Environmental Protection Innovative Technology grant for algae bloom. And this grant amount is $304,000. It does not require a match. The funding will be used to evaluate the performance of the Green Water Solutions nanobubble ozone technology to reduce blue algae. Item number 9 is Ecosystem Restoration Management Division is requesting permission to apply for FY24 FDEP Innovative Technology Grant. Again, this is for the Martin County Seagrass Restoration. The grant amount is, their requesting is $400,000. The match is $100,000, and then that's programmed in the Ecosystem CIP.
Can somebody just explain this magic to me? We're vacuuming the bad stuff off and leaving the good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Gorton, Public Works Director. So an area that you see a lot of this algae is right near the crossroads and the sandbars over that way. And what happens is the algae outcompetes the seagrass. So there's seagrass that grows up, but once it starts extending above the surface of the sand, the algae overtakes it, and it really causes the seagrass to die back off. So if you go out there today, you'll see a viscous substance on a lot of those seagrass beds, and what it is that algae. So what we want to do is very similar to the way we handled the harmful algae blooms when we had the lake releases, where we actually vacuumed the material off the surface. This one, the vacuum will go below the water at a very low rate. We're not going to vacuum it very hard, otherwise you risk damaging the seagrass itself. But we'll remove that material so that the seagrass will have the opportunity to actually grow past, a couple inches is the max you can get before that algae really outcompetes it. It's a pretty. The Ecosystems Group has some photos of what we're dealing with out there, and it's pretty nasty looking what's happening out there, and it's unfortunate because we do have a lot of it starting to grow in that area, but it just can't get past that juvenile stage.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Item number 10 is permission to apply for the Indian River Lagoon Water Improvement Grant for the Palm City Farms Stormwater STA. The grant request is for $3,450,000. It requires a $1 million match. That is programmed in FY24 Map Road Hog Creek CIP. The funds will be used to construct a 20-acre STA, and that will help to reduce the nutrient and pollutants. What do you say? Pollutants. The surface water in St. Lucie Estuary. Item number 11 is permission to apply for the Inner River Lagoon Water Improvements Grant, and this is for Golden Gate Stormwater Treatment Area. And the purpose of the project is to pioneer a new method for removing nutrients from the underperforming stormwater treatment area. And it will also help with the TMDL, which is a total maximum daily load. And the grant amount requested is $400,000. And it requires a $100,000 match, which is also programmed. Item number 12 is permission to accept the Federal Aviation Administration bipartisan infrastructure law grant for. Let me look at this. Law, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, BIL, grant number XYZ, for the Martin County Airport Automated Weather System. This grant covers 95% of the new installation, which has the useful life was last built in 2006. The amount of the grant is $335,000, which represents 90% of the funding. The remaining of the funding will come from the FTA, as FDOT, as well as the enterprise fund. Okay, item number 13, the Friends of Martin County Library has contributed $50,000 to be used at the Hoke Library to develop the outdoor space. Staff is requesting approval of a budget resolution to allocate those funds. Item number 14 is a request for funds for Sailfish Splash Water Park. There is a reserve of $462,000 that is in the fund, and we would like to utilize those monies for repairs and maintenance, as well as mechanical and aquatic pool equipment. And these repairs are necessary to continue to maintain the facility. Item number 15, the clerk collects fines for substance abuse, and that's placed in our fund and in the county's funds, and those for drug abuse. And we use those funds for either grant match, and we've done in the past, in 2018, we used it as a grant match for a BJA grant, which is a Bureau of Justice Assistant grant. Those funds are no longer needed for that. Our Human Services is requesting to utilize those funds to buy drug supplies for the drug lab, and, as needed. And currently, there is $108,000 available, so we just want to move it out of reserve so that we can utilize those monies when necessary. Item number 16, requesting a budget funds for the supervisor of elections. Due to the increase in costs and mailing that is mandated by the state, she is requesting $65,000 from reserve for contingency to cover those unanticipated expenses. She's also requesting approval of a budget transfer of grant funds that she received from prior year of $15,100. Item number 17 is a budget resolution to accept additional funding for the E911 grant, and that is for to upgrade the E911 Vesta Next Generation Core System. The amount of the grant is $912,000, and there is no match required in that. So we just need to do a resolution to allocate those funds. The final item is a request to approve the budget resolution to amend the Emergency Medical System Trust Fund grant. We wanted to move the FY22 funds into the FY23 funding, so that we only use one funding source, and that was approved by the Florida Department of Health. And that concludes my presentation. It was too long.
Ms. Manning, thank you very much. The presentation.
Move approval with special recognition for Public Works and Ecosystem Restoration Management. My goodness, lots and lots of great applications.
And lots of
Okay.
money. Okay.
Thank you for putting that all together. We have a motion by Commissioner Hurd for staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Manning. Our next departmental agenda item is departmental number 2, contracts that meet the threshold for board approval, $1 million or greater. There are 6 of them, and they'll be presented by Ms. Christy Brotherton. Ms. Brotherton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Christy Brotherton for the record. I have 6 items for your consideration. The first one is a contract award for the Golden Gate Neighborhood Resurfacing Project. Staff is recommending that the board award the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which is M&M Asphalt Maintenance, doing business as All County Paving, in the amount of $2,443,127.87. Move that the board approve the revised CIP sheet to fund the bid award, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute all documents related to this request. The next item we have is a contract award for the County Road 714 Martin Highway Resurfacing Project. This is for the section of roadway between State Road 710 and Fox Brown Road. Staff is recommending that the board award the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which is, again, M&M Asphalt Maintenance, doing business as All County Paving, in the amount of $1,844,973.18.
One moment, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Christie, just curious, so when you say 710 to Fox Brown Road, that includes the corner we were just talking about relative to the state legislative ask?
I will defer to Public Works.
George Zama, Public Works Deputy Director. Yes, that does include the current intersection. We don't know when the new realignment project would occur, so we just went ahead and awarded the project to the full limits of all the way to 710.
Thank you.
Okay. So move that the board approve the revised CIP sheet to fund the bid award. And 3, move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute all documents related to this request. The next item is a continuing services contract for civil engineering services for our community redevelopment areas. This contract has a maximum not to exceed value of $4 million with a maximum not to exceed term of 5 years. And staff is recommending that the board award the contract to 4 vendors, which is CPH, DDEC, Captech Engineering, and GAI Consultants, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute all documents related to this request. The next item is another continuing services contract. This is for our right-of-way landscape and mowing contract. It has a maximum not to exceed value of $9 million with a maximum not to exceed term of 5 years. And staff is recommending that the board award the contract to Main Guy Environmental Care, doing business as Main Guy Landscape Services, which includes the base bid and bid alternate, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute all documents related to this request. Next, we have another continuing services contract. This is for chemicals for water and wastewater treatment with a maximum not to exceed contract value of $14 million and a maximum not to exceed term of 5 years. Staff is recommending that the board award the contract to 11 vendors, which are Airgas Specialty Products, Allied Universal Corporation, Amaya Solutions, Brentag Mid-South, Florida Chemical Supply, Matheson Trigas, Odyssey Manufacturing, Shreve Chemical Company, Sulfuric Acid Trading Company, Tanner Industries, and Univar Solutions, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute all documents related to this request. And last but not least, we have a change order request for the Southeast Dixie Highway resurfacing project. This is the section of roadway between Monterey Road and 5th Street in Stewart. Staff is recommending that the board approve change order number 2 to the contractor J.W. Cheatham in the amount of $124,352.60. Move that the board approve the revised CIP sheet to fund the change order, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute any and all documents related to this request. And that concludes this item.
Thank you very much. Questions for Ms. Brotherton?
Move approval of Department 2.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Commissioner Hurd for staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Brotherton, our thanks. Okay, getting down to the nitty-gritty. Departmental number 5, a presentation of Energy Management and Savings Program Summary by Mr. Sean Donahue. Mr. Donahue, good afternoon. Welcome. You are recognized.
Thank you, sir. So general services, part of our task is to maintain buildings, obviously make them comfortable, keep the lights on, keep the air on. But the other side of it is saving money, finding efficiencies in our systems, saving as much electricity or water utilities as we possibly can. So this is a presentation on things that we've done in the past, over the past 15 years or so, as well as it's a follow-up to some discussion items that we had at the budget workshop. So here's some topics. Again, just following up on some of the energy savings projects and operational savings projects we've had in the past. We'll talk about the energy manager FTE position that our department requested. We'll talk a little bit about some facility facts, how we're monitoring and inspecting our facilities, again, on the savings projects in detail, and then we'll get back to that FTE request. So just some facility facts. The county owns about 2.1 million square feet of facilities. That's huge. 236,000 or 56,000 is just a whole complex alone. This facility here, 73,000. We have some big buildings, we have some small buildings, old, new. They all cost money in different ways. Some newer buildings can cost a little bit more than older buildings, just the way the HVAC systems work. And we're responsible for maintaining the majority of that. Our electrical expenses over the last year have been about $4.8 million. So any percentage that we can save on that is significant numbers. In comparison, there's an APPA, that's American Physical Plant Association, cost per square foot of electricity. We're about $2.28 dollars per square foot. Typical schools, this is all for schools, is about $2.16 million or dollars per square foot. HVAC costs are about 40% of any building's electrical expense. So that's significant. That's 1.9 million of our 4.8 million spent last year. Any savings on that is huge. Just as a sense of how many HVAC systems we have, about 850 HVAC systems, and these are up in the ceilings and closets or back of house. You'll never see them. Hopefully you'll never know that they're down. Sometimes that happens, but HVACs are complex units. There's tens of devices, sensors, motors, things that happen. We monitor that with 5 people, 5 HVAC technicians, plus our partners that train. So it's a lot of work. Things can go south. A lot of things add up fairly quickly, and it can cost the county a considerable amount of money. So again, we've got a big job, but we take it on, and it's fun to do because we can find savings in a lot of different places. More on inspections and being proactive with our maintenance and inspections procedures. We can save significant amount of money, 5 to 20% annually, just by doing our proactive inspections and staying on top of these things. Why do I say that? Every time we do an inspection, we have to fix something. You guys providing us with FARB, fixed asset replacement budget funding, CIP funding for replacement projects, that only saves us money. It costs money, but in the long run, if we stay away from deferred maintenance, if we stay away from some of these older systems, we're going to end up saving a lot of money down the road. Okay. So let's talk about the past projects. We've done a lot of energy work over the last 15 years. We started in 2007. Our latest one was 2021, and you can see them listed here. These are the projected savings over the life of these projects. The first one, the jail project with FPL, that's completed. That was done in 2007, and it's done. That saved about $1 million just on its own. You can see the projected savings over the cost of these projects is about $20 million of savings for the county. These are big numbers. These are kind of a snapshot of where we are to date. Again, some of the projects are done. Some of the projects are just new in their life. And it'll take some time, 16 years for the train general services project. That's nearing its end. 14 years for the other train jail project. And that's just started. So, but we have there's some relationships here on the CO2 savings and things like that of how much we saved over the life of these projects. And it's pretty significant. There's still more to do. Like I said, there's some older projects. Some have termed out, like the jail stuff that we've done back in 2007. Those are old. We could reapproach that, and we could take a look at things the way, the newer technologies and newer savings techniques. Sir.
Commissioner Smith.
What's the difference, so your total energy savings to date, total non-energy savings, I don't know what that is.
Non-energy savings is operational savings. So if we replace systems before they're expired and we don't have to budget for it, because we're borrowing against future energy savings to pay for that, that's operational savings. And I failed to mention before, these projects are all supported by Florida statute. They are budget neutral projects. They're required to be budget neutral by statute. So when we sign up with Train and they guarantee these projects, they have to work. They have to work, or the Train pays for it. And they're in the game. They've got skin in the game to make sure these things work. So again, replacing an old HVAC system, an old chiller system, and replacing it with newer technology, it creates the savings to pay for itself over time.
So if I'm reading it correct, the total project cost was close to 30 million, right?
Yes.
But the total savings is 26 million.
That's to date.
Date.
Yeah, let me flip back one slide. These are projected savings over the life of all these projects. So you see
I
the
just
50.
don't, I don't want to glass over that for the public, because if you're not looking at the actual numbers, you're just listening to the presentation, that's a big number.
It is. It is.
Saved $30 million.
Huh?
Yeah, saved $30 million.
20
Taxpayer
million,
dollars.
but it's.
20, go back to it.
That's today. That's projected.
Oh, projected to save another, yeah.
So over the 15 years, 16 years lifespan of these projects, they're definitely worth it. And like I said, there's still more to do. I think we can talk about that a little bit later. Just some real detailed, if we want to dive into the weeds a little bit. If not, we can skim right over these. The 2007 project, it was a good first step into it, a $2.4 million project. We saved about $3 million, or it saved about $1 million in expenses with just replacing plumbing systems and rooftop units. Again, some of those units are older and out of date now, so we'll have to take another look at those. This was the larger of the 5 projects, 4.6 million cost, but we did a lot. We did, I think, 20 different buildings. We put train controls, 26 different buildings. We did train controls all throughout, so we have, high-end technical maintenance systems. We can keep track of these things better. We saved some operational savings by replacing the courthouse office building, air handlers or chillers with chilled water systems. Those are very efficient systems. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So that was a good project. Sports lighting project, we did, I think, 20 different parks plus the Holt compound. That was back before these lighting systems had LEDs, so there may be another opportunity to look at these systems again. These are older, new at the time, older now, old metal halide lighting systems. Each one of those bulbs can be 1,500 watts. We can probably knock that down to 500 now, just doing LEDs. So I think it's worth taking another look at those. The jail chilled water system, that was, like I said this before, chilled water is a very efficient system. It lasts longer, it's easier to maintain, and it can provide a lot of benefit. And this project was a very good one to do for the county. It's a nice complex, it's a nice campus. We can attach more buildings to it as we grow. The new pod could come in and attach to this plant. This central energy plant is what it's called, fairly easily. And we also have a plan in our current CIP to attach the public safety complex to this chiller plant. We can look at this as an energy savings project and maybe offset that CIP money by paying for it for future energy savings. Okay. And then the health department is a pretty neat project. This is a thermal energy storage project. It's basically a battery. Very simple way to save money. The night rebates or the night rates for FPL are much cheaper than they are in a day, so we make our chilled water. We make ice at night with the cheaper rates, and then we burn that ice. We run the water through the building that's colder throughout the day, and it's a simple way to save money. So it was a nice little project, nice little package. So future projects, I see a lot of water conservation we could do. I see a lot of building envelope issues that we have throughout the county. Again, LED lighting throughout the parks, throughout the parking lots, the public safety complex, putting that onto the chiller plant at the jail. We've got some other projects at the Cummings Library. That's a perfect candidate for converting that system over to possibly a energy storage system like at the health department. There's ways to save that money and offset these future operational costs. And I think we can take a look at that. We can come back at some future date with an energy audit and see where we can save money, what makes best sense, and try to tick some of these off as we go. Okay. So let me address the Energy Manager project or the FTE. I'll pull that back. I know there wasn't an appetite to do that, but I think I can prove to you in a future date that this will save money using a resource like this. There's a lot of HVAC components out there. There's a lot of lighting control systems out there that need some constant hand-holding and fixing. And I think we could focus on that. I'd like to come back and maybe show you a little bit more data in a year or two and see if that's worth you looking at again. So, but for now, we'll pull it back. No problem.
Accepted. Thank you. Is that everything? Questions for Mr. Donahue?
Comment.
The comment is that I'm already convinced that we could
Excuse me?
use.
You have a light?
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I just want to comment that you did a really great job presenting on a very complicated subject matter.
Commissioner Hurd?
And I would just like to observe that you've already convinced me that a full-time energy manager would be a great idea.
I would have voted too, but you withdrew it, so it's too late now.
Back.
Damn. Next year. Anybody else?
But let me ask you, on that
Please.
question,
He doesn't have his light on.
I just motioned to the light. Thank you, Commissioner Smith, your light.
sorry. At what stage, how much more has to get shown to us to convince us that we should have someone full-time doing this?
3 votes.
What you just presented, and that's why I wanted to slow you down just a tad to show and tell us exactly how much we have saved. We have saved millions
And contracts.
in contracts and redoing systems that are much better systems, and their financing is incredibly creative and so on.
Well, I think that the board's instinct was right the first time when you saw the request. We can try to train some in-house staff a little bit more and take advantage of the current resources we have. I think it may elevate our staff, so I'd like to try that. I mean, it's a great idea. There are professionally trained energy managers out there, but maybe we can build this in-house and do it in a different way.
Fair enough. I just, at the risk of how much that will cost us to not do it, I would say don't wait a year. I would say come back in 6 months and say, look, here we are, and here's what the numbers look like. Anyway, Harold's shaking his head like he's heard enough. Never mind.
We appreciate you looking into your own team and deciding that you could do without it this year. That's not a bad theme. Thank you very much. But we appreciate everything that you're doing and with your team. Who's that behind you there?
Julie.
No, behind Mr. Donahue. Why don't you acknowledge one of your team members there?
A great mentor, Kevin Landry. Ever since I've gotten here, he's taught me so much about the county. He's got great instincts, by the way.
He's one of our superstars. Wherever we put him, he succeeds.
A great team.
We just keep trying to put him somewhere else and just keep working. So good to see you, Kevin. Okay, thank you very much. We are sort of staying right on budget, on time. Departmental number 6, update on the septic to sewer program, service availability and connections. It'll be presented by Jeremy Covey and Sam Emerson. We like to call them number 1 in the number 2 business. Well, you got a whole team.
Good afternoon.
Sam, I love what you've done with your hair.
Sam's over there.
No, it's teasing.
Oh, me.
It's teasing. Not all of them are winners.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jeremy Covey with Martin County Utilities, Deputy Director.
Who's this?
Yep. And with me, I have David Duncan, Project Manager in charge of the grinder program, and also Christine Papke with Self or Solar Energy Loan Fund. Today, we're going to provide a brief update on the septic to sewer program, along with how Self has helped us out with that program.
Terrific.
There we go. This slide, to date, Martin County Utilities have provided sewer service to approximately 2,900 parcels, both developed and undeveloped parcels, utilizing 2 different systems. The first system is a low-pressure system that includes small diameter force mains in the right-of-ways and grinder stations at each home. The second system, which are larger systems, is the vacuum system, which has a vacuum building, gravity piping in the right-of-way, and a receiving pit for every 2 to 4 homes. And when the customer would like to connect to the pit, they would connect a gravity lateral from their house to the pit, and they would be connected. As you can see, the majority of the neighborhoods, 16 of the 18, completed to date, are mostly grinders. The reason for this is the grinders do not have an assessment associated with them and generally are smaller and easier to construct. Anywhere between 2 and 8 months, we can have one of those constructed. Currently, we have one project under construction, the Rio Central project, to serve 241 parcels. We also have another project out there, the Rio East neighborhood, to serve 376 parcels that currently is out to bid. We have 8 upcoming projects programmed for the next 3 to 4 years, 4 of them utilizing grinders, and 4 of them utilizing vacuum for a total of approximately 4,600 parcels. This slide has a lot of information on it, but recaps where we currently are with the septic sewer program. 2 items I'd like to point out. First of all, the connected to date, we're at 49% connection rate. That's a combination of the actual vacuum systems as well as the grinder program. And that will be increasing over the next 6 months to 12 months. Golden Gate's been online for about 6 months now, so that connection rate is increasing by the day. The other item I'd like to point out is currently we are projecting to have service available to 7,774 parcels by 2027, which will get us over 75% of our goal of 10,000 septic tanks in 10 years. And now for the next half of the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Christine for the south portion.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to join you. Solar and Energy Loan Fund is a nonprofit, small nonprofit organization to assist people that are unable to afford home repairs to sustain their homes, and provides windows, air conditioners, roofs, handicap adaptations. We have programs for veterans, single moms, handicap, and the Solar to Energy Septic to Sewer program has assisted 146 homes and $997,000 so far, so $1 million. Thank you. The clients have the option for a 10-year zero-down loan, which is an $85 a month payment on their Martin County utility bill. It's a quick approval process. Generally, I process a loan within 24 hours. And I've been very, very happy, and since we started the program with Martin County since 2020. Is there another one?
Nope, that's it. We can go
That's
back.
it? No.
Okay. Anything else?
No. Mm-mm.
And that kind of concludes the
Lori?
update. It's a quick update.
Yes, they're quick.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Wow, lights. We got lights. Commissioner Hurd, I see your light.
Yeah, how do you inform people about the SELF program?
For the record, David Duncan, project manager. When the customers, when we finish an area and we send out a mailing to let the folks know that we're ready to go, we include that information in our FAQ sheet, which gives them the options to either pay up front. It also discloses that they have a 365-day window to pay at the lower rate. It also lets them know if they have an incentive for grants, which we currently have now, which help offset the cost, and then also gives them the information for self. Once we actually go on site and meet with the folks, I send them all the self information via the internet, or I can provide them paper documentation, and it's easy as just clicking and following the links which are attached to the Martin County website. So it's a very quick process for them to access all that information.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yeah, I think this has been a really novel program. I think we're the only county or municipality in the state that's actually pulled this off. And SELF was really a huge partner in this, and I think it started ultimately with Sam's Connect to Protect program, and initially the board was looking to put aside about $200,000 a year to try to help people hook up to sewer at with this program. Now, $200,000 at $8,000 our cost per unit. You were looking at 10 to 40 projects a year is the most that we could do. So, and of course, you're not a bank. We're not a bank. We don't have this infinite supply of money just to keep loaning folks funds. And so Self really became our business partner really in this. And so the utility is the billing entity, which is a unique piece of this as well. That's why it took us about 2 years to get the agreement in place. But ultimately, we're still able to get some grants at about $1,000 to help these folks hook up. And then Self went out, had to change their policies to be able to get their donors and financiers to allow septic to sewer to become part of their program, which they were successful in doing. And pretty amazing, already up to $1 million worth of loans that obviously we couldn't set aside $1 million to do all these hookups. And it's been really, I think, a really notable service. I think your presentation was fine, but very. I only wanted to say that it's significant in I believe in the state of Florida and probably in the country on what we're doing with a program for somebody to basically have no money down and have the other unique portion I always point out, Sam, was that we handled everything soup to nuts. That's disconnecting their old sewer and hooking up the grinder system. All of that was handled by contractors that Sam's group had bid out. So it's been a pretty phenomenal program, I think, that sharing with other communities, when we showed it to them, people are pretty amazed at what we've been able to pull off. So kudos to our utilities group and Self.
Excellent. I appreciate it. And every chance that our folks can hear the information. And so if they want to, they can contact 772-221-1434, correct?
That would be.
Yeah, that's the Martin County Utilities phone number.
Septic to
But
sewer
yes.
phone number? Or they can go to www.martin.fl.us/septic to sewer to get additional information. Apply today. Oh, there's the phone number, 468-1818.
Yes. I have to have a sewer pipe, though.
That's 468-1818. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
We have reached the end of our official agenda for the first portion of our day.
And I'm not so sure we have. Did we do DPQJ3?
It was withdrawn.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Lack of proper notification. So with that in mind, our budget hearing will start at 5:05. Do you want to do a round of commissioner comments now? Sure. Yes? I'm good. Good. Everybody?
I'm set.
So we will adjourn for the time being and come back and start our budget hearing at 5:05.